Today, ma'am, I'm Faiza P. Manget, Bachelor in Human Services. So, this is our report. Our report is all about McCrar and Costa Five-Factor Trait Theory. Biography of Robert Roger McCrar was born April 28, 1949 in Maryville, Missouri, a town of 13,000 people located about 100 miles north of Kansas City. Maryville is home to Northwest Missouri State, the town's largest employer. McCrar, the youngest of three children, born to Andrew McCrar and Eloise Elijah McCrar, grew up with an avid interest in science and mathematics. By the time he entered Michigan State University, he had decided to study philosophy. Biography of Paul T. Costa Jr. was born September 16, 1942 in Franklin, New Hampshire, the son of Paul T. Costa Sr. and Esther Vassell Costa. He earned his undergraduate degree in psychology at Clark University in 1964 and both his master in 1968. Doctor Philosophy in 1970 and Human Development from the University of Chicago. His long-standing interest in individual differences and the nature of personality increased greatly in the stimulating intellectual environment at the University of Chicago. While at Chicago, he worked with Salvatore R. Maddy, with whom he published a book of humanistic personality theory. After receiving his Doctor Philosophy, he taught for 2 years at Harvard and then from 1973 to 1978 at University of Massachusetts, Boston. The five-factor theory of personality, Costa and McCrar acknowledged the important role that Eysenck played when he identified extraversion and neuroticism as second-order personality factors, and for developing the Maudsley Personality Inventory, the Eysenck Personality Inventory, and the Eysenck Personality Questionnaire. The later test developed with his wife Sybil was the first to include psychoticism as tools for measuring the factors. However, they disagree with Eysenck regarding to psychoticism. Costa and McCrar recognized the role of Eysenck, and they also identified extraversion, the passionate, and the neuroticism, the vulnerable, one as the second-order personality factors. Both of these dimensions, extraversion and neuroticism, were introduced and since emphasized as temperamental aspects of personality that are inherited and evident at birth. At that time, Costa and McCrar have moved beyond the third factor of openness and added two more second-order factors, which is agreeableness and conscientiousness. Together, Costa and McCrar developed the Neo Personality Inventory, or NEO-P, to measure neuroticism, extraversion, and openness. The later, they developed the revised NEO-P, or NEO-PR, which also measures agreeableness and conscientiousness. Table of the five-factor model of personality. Factor: neuroticism. Lower score description of neuroticism is calm, even-tempered, self-satisfied, comfortable, unemotional, and hardy. High score description of neuroticism is worrying, temperamental, self-pitying, self-conscious, emotional, and vulnerable. Extraversion. Low score description of extraversion: reserved, loner, quiet, passive, sober, unfeeling. The high score description of extraversion, which are affectionate, joiner, talkative, active, fun-loving, passionate. Openness to experience. Low score description: down to earth, uncreative, conventional, prefer routine, uncurious, conservative. High score description of openness to experience: imaginative, creative, original, prefer, variety, curious, and liberal. Agreeableness. Low score description: ruthless, suspicious, stingy, antagonistic, critical, irritable. High score description: soft-hearted, trusting, generous, acquiescent, lenient, good nature, conscientious, low score description, negligent, lazy, disorganized, late, aimless, and quitting. High score description, hearted, trusting, generous, acquiescent, lenient, good nature, conscientious, low score description, negligent, lazy, disorganized, late, aimless, and quitting. High score description, conscientious, hardworking, well-organized, punctual, ambitious, and persevering. Is the tendency to experience negative emotions such as sadness or anxiety, as well as mood swings. Those scoring high on neuroticism tend to worry or ruminate a great deal and are prone to having their feelings easily hurt. For example, ng neuroticism is yung high score description, yung worrying, temperamental, self-pitying, self-conscious, emotional, and vulnerable. Ang neuroticism is may tendency na naka-experience siya ng negative emotion such as yung sadness or anxiety or paiba-iba yung mood. Extraversion, an individual who score high on extraversion is characterized by high energy, positive emotion like talkativeness, assertiveness, sociability, and the tendency to seek stimulation and the company of others. Those who score low on extraversion prefer solitude and or smaller groups, enjoy quiet, prefer activities alone, and avoid large social situations. Not surprisingly, people who score high on both extroversion and openness are more likely to participate in adventure and risky sports due to their curious and excitement-seeking nature. For example, ng extraversion is yung sa high-low description ng extraversion is may energy siya, kumbaga sa mga grupo, may positive emotion siya, may talkative siya, tumutulong siya sa mga gawain, tapos sociability siya or mahilig siya makisalamuha sa ibang tao. Ang low description ng extraversion is yung sa kumbaga prefer activities alone, hindi siya masyado nakikipag-cooperate sa mga activities, tapos palagi siyang tahimik.
Openness to experience reflects the extent to which people think in broad versus narrow and deep versus shallow ways, and the permeability of boundaries in their consciousness and experience. McCrar 1993 to 1994, McCrar and Costa 1997. So dito sa openness to experience is nagre-reflect dito kung ano yung nasa isip ng tao in a broad way, kung ito in a broad versus the narrow, kung sa isang specific way lang or sa as a whole way na kanyang naiisip or experience. And it's deep or shallow, kung ito ba ay malalim yung kanyang pinaghuhugutan or hindi. It is based on his or her consciousness and experience. The second one is agreeableness. Arguably, the largest dimension of the 5-factor approach to personality is related to a range of variables associated with motives to maintain social harmony. As a personality dimension, agreeableness is less frequently studied empirically and even less well-developed theoretically relative to the other 4 factors. At one end of this continuous personality dimension is antagonism. So, itong agreeableness is less lang siya na-develop ng theory compared to the 4 factors. The other one here is the conscientiousness. Is a big 5-factor of personality. Along with other broad factors, openness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, these factors follow the lexical approach to personality. which proposed that people naturally create terms for common traits so that they can describe and discuss them. So, ito naman is isa siya sa big 5 factor ng personality kasi ito is pinag-aaralan na dito yung common trait ng isang tao para ma-describe nila at para makapag-discuss sila, para madali nilang ma-identify yung isa't isa. The general description of extraversion, neuroticism, openness, agreeableness, and conscientious, it is important to note that these 5 factors are distinct and neither low nor high scores are necessarily better or good or bad. So, itong description ng 5 factors na to is pinaka-importante because importante siya kasi it's either nasa parang pantay lang yung kanilang mga distinct with each other. Hindi siya mababa, hindi siya mataas, hindi siya good and bad. Kumbaga is pantay lang siya. All traits have passed the evolutionary test of survival, and from society's point of view, all kinds of people are necessary. Those who work well with others, and those who can finish a task on their own, those who come up with creative new ways of doing things, and those who maintain the best solution of the past. There are probably even advantage to found in neuroticism, since a society of extremely easygoing individuals might not compete with other societies of suspicious and hostile individuals. Cultures needs members fit for war as well as peace, work as well as play. As a basis for studying personality, the 5-factor model has a proven quite quiet and comprehensive. The 5 factors stand up well when measured with a variety of other tests and within other theoretical perspectives, including a true comparison with the list of human needs proposed by Henry Murray, particularly important and psychologically today. The 5-factor model has also stood up very well when examined across cultures, a topic we will examine in more detail in connection across cultures. So, itong 5-factor model na to is naging basis ng ibang psychologists para pag-studihan yung mga personality ng isang tao. The Big 5. So we have here the Big 5 across cultures. In order to evaluate the cross-cultural application of the 5-factor model, Robert McCrar has suggested that we need to address the issue in 3 ways. So, para daw ma-evaluate yung cross-cultural application ng 5-factor model, si McCrar is nag-suggest na kailangan ma-address itong issue na to in 3 ways. The first one is the transcultural. Transcultural analysis look for personality factors that transcend a culture. In other words, personality factors that are universal or common to all people. So, itong transcultural is as a whole na to siya is common sa lahat ng tao. For example, sa Philippines and sa United States is common itong culture na to sa kanila. That is the example of transcultural. Second one is intracultural. Intracultural analysis look at the specific expression of traits within a culture. So, itong intracultural naman is nag-a-analyze or tinitingnan kung ano yung specific na traits ng kultura, ng isang kultura lang or within a culture lang. Halimbawa is in Christian or pag Christian is doon lang na culture sa Christian or Katoliko. And finally, the third one is intercultural. Intercultural analysis compare trait characteristic between culture to culture. In 2002, McCrar and Alec published the 5-factor model of personality across culture, a collection of research in which a variety of investigators examined the applicability of the 5-factor model in a wide variety of cultures. So, ito namang intercultural is kino-compare niya yung culture between the culture. Example is the culture of the Muslim and the culture of the Christian. The various studies contained in this book examine personality structure as well as the validity and generalizability of using the Pi-R to measure personality. In some 40 cultures spread across 5 continents, McCray and Alick acknowledge that there is much more to personality than just traits, but the traits identified in the FFM appear to offer a robust cross-cultural foundation for understanding personality worldwide. So, ito the big five across culture na to is naglalaman siya ng mga personality structure. So, there are three central components to personality. The first one here is the basic tendencies, which are the 5 personality factors. So, ang basic tendencies, ito na yung 5 personality factors ng personality. Ito yung tawag sa The second one is characteristic adaptations. Number 3 is self-concept. So the first one here is the basic tendencies are one of the central components of personality along with characteristic adaptations, self-concept, biological basis, objective biography, and external influence. Basic tendencies may be inherited, imprinted by early experience, or modified by disease or psychological intervention. But at any given period in an individual's life, they define the individual's potential and direction. The essence of basic tendencies is their basis in biology and their stability over time and situation. Stable and enduring, how quickly we learn, characteristic response are shaped and molded by basis tendencies. So, ang basic tendencies is central components of personality. Kumbaga, ito yung pinaka-sentro ng personality kasi ito is nasa karakteristik na ng isang tao or naa-adapt ng isang tao or objective based on nakikita na nila or based on their experience. Kumbaga is imprinted by early experience. Kumbaga, ito is simula pagkabata ay namulat na sila sa ganitong culture. O di kaya is na inherited na ito sa kanilang or namana na nila ito sa kanilang mga ninuno. So the second one here is the characteristic adaptations. Acquired personality structures that develop as people adapt to their environment. So itong characteristic adaptations naman is na-acquired na yung personality sa pagde-develop nadidevelop ito sa community, within a community. Kumbaga is natututunan niya ito sa kanyang community. Can be influenced by external influence such as acquired skills, habits, attitudes, and relationships that results from the interaction of individuals with their environment. Fluctuate, making them subject to change over a person's lifetime. What we learn, disposition, and tendencies are the direct influence on our characteristic adaptation. So, ito talaga yung characteristic adaptations is na-a-adapt natin sa community or sa isang tao na depende sa ating nakakasalamuha sa environment. So, the third one here is the self-concept. Consists of knowledge, views, and evaluation of the self, ranging from miscellaneous facts of personal history to the identity that gives a sense of purpose and coherence to life. Is actually a characteristic adaptation, but it gets its own box because it is an important adaptation. Personal myths as part of person's self-concept. So, itong self-concept naman is nasa knowledge na natin, nasa sarili na natin. It depends on our self, kung ano yung knowledge natin about doon, kung paano natin siya evaluate at kung paano natin makikita kung paano natin i-view yung na yon. So, tandaan lang natin ang basic tendencies is how quickly we learn. And then, ang characteristic adaptations naman is what we learn. And the self-concept is based in ourselves on how we view that kind of situation. So, yun.
my explanations in our PowerPoint report authored by McCrar and Costa. As being student, as well as Bachelor in Human Services, we should know the strategies or techniques on how we'll handle the situations in order to our capability to counsel to them, because to our profession soon as guidance counselor, we, we our we are the leader of our client. Personality traits, it's important to everyone because we know that might be helping in our own personality into the reality in order our knowledge and skill. Costa and Macrae, they can be influence us to what they have done both. And also, five factors of Costa and Macrae might be able to learn, to get knowledge what they contain, the different personality traits in order the situations.